Good morning. Don the Window Cleaner here again. And I understand today in Washington, I think they're having that March for Life. It's a pro-life march. And, it got me thinking about the past of that movement and how Christians have participated in the anti-abortion movement. Um, or we prefer to say the pro-life movement, really, because that is what it's about. Abortion is just a symptom of a deeper problem. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not involved in politics very much anymore. I'm really focusing on square one, which is the gospel. Um, you can have a country with lousy laws, but if you have righteous people, good people who do the right thing, then the laws don't matter that much because people are doing what is right. But if you have laws in place, but people disobey them and, flaunt their disobedience of the law and people kind of go along with that, you end up with, Minneapolis. So anyway, uh, back to the whole pro-life thing, it was brought to my attention. I was listening to a podcast recently where they were talking about the Hyde Amendment, that was passed back in the 70s about, government money cannot pay for abortions. And that's been in place for a long time. And when that passed, it passed with 107 Democrats voting for that. Oh, how times have changed, because now, abortion is something that is sacrosanct, and, people are weeping and wailing and declaring all kinds of crazy things if you don't pay for their abortion, if they can't get abortion on demand. Um, things have really gone downhill. And a lot of it is because of the people who show up at the meetings. Um, when I first got involved in politics in 2002, I noticed that the parties basically are made up of the people who care enough to go to the meetings. And there was a Sheriff Ulrich. Before he was sheriff, he decided to get involved in politics, and he was a Democrat. And he went to one of the Democrat Party meetings, and he noticed that people did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. They had a Pledge of Allegiance. Most people just sat around. They were a bunch of, you know, old hippies and, what do you call it? Uh, you know, you know, old school leftists, basically, people that really didn't love America. And he looked around at this scene and he said, I think I'm at the wrong meeting. And he became a Republican. But, he had taken notice of the fact that all the people like him had stopped going to the meetings. And so he came to our meetings, and when I went there and joined them, I got involved just because even though I was in Gainesville and you didn't have much chance of winning in Gainesville if you were a Republican, I know that you had to push against the status quo and that other parties couldn't do that. I was kind of a libertarian by nature, but the Libertarian Party is useless. As far as winning elections are concerned, it's all performative posturing and stuff, and about how noble we are about the Constitution. But you don't never win, you never govern, you have no chance of making a difference except to play spoiler against Republicans when they're running. I know I was kind of a victim of you people a couple of times. So, but the parties are made up of the people who care enough to show up. And too often, Christians do not show up. We don't show up to vote. I think in Virginia, they just had an utter disaster. And it's because even though, um, conservatives had won a great uh, victory the last gubernatorial election, this time around, no, they just didn't show up. They didn't show up. And the most reprehensible, terrible Democrats are in office, including that guy who made death threats against a Republican and his children. Yeah, he's the DA now. Okay, boy, don't you feel good about living in that place? But that is how those things happen: is that we just don't show up. So I know you're thinking this is highly political today, but it's not, and that's because. The Bible tells us that we should participate. To whom much is given, much is required. The apostles didn't have civil rights. We do. We have a system of self-government. The apostles did not have a system of self-government. They were under a Roman dictatorship, and they were generally under some sort of monarchy or dictatorship. And it was the very, very slow slog of influence instead of power that finally brought them to power in many of those places. And power is tricky because power corrupts. And right now, Christians are not in power by any stretch of the imagination. We are constantly having to make common cause with people who are not really believers. We're grateful for those people when we have common cause, and it allows us to do things that help us preserve our rights, but it is usually short-lived. And we really need to make sure that we are doing the thing that God has told us to do, which is to preach the gospel, tell people that Jesus Christ came to take their sin away. Nobody else can make you guilty about your past and your ancestors. You don't owe them because you have been made clean. You've been made righteous by the blood of Christ. And that is the thing we're able to offer to people, to the good news that God is no longer holding their sins against them, no matter who else does. So, this is Don. You have a great day. I got a work day, and who knows, I might get the urge to say something this afternoon. I'll see you later.